Morning, this is Mr. Flynn here, and this is lesson 2 for the new business students, all about the entrepreneur. And hopefully you went through last lesson and you emailed us back some work and you're able to identify whether or not you were entrepreneurial and also identify some characteristics of an entrepreneur. And so hopefully you were also able to write back to us and show us a little bit of written work which would describe the characteristics of an entrepreneur. So we're just going to continue on with this today, and you can sort of better still identify the characteristics of an entrepreneur. So again, if you see this pause button, if you did it successfully last lesson, pause the video and then carry on with the tasks. Okay, it's just introducing the lesson objective. It's similar to the one that we just did. How can I identify characteristics of an entrepreneur? So slightly different in terms of the knowledge that you did last time, which is all about what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur. Now what we want you to do is we want you to do a bit of reading to be able to find out about entrepreneurs and to learn about them and see what made them entrepreneurial. So what characteristics did they have? And that's quite a key component when you're writing about an entrepreneur, that you're able to actually look and see what people have done that is entrepreneurial. Okay. Little starter activity here. Some of these words would describe an entrepreneur and some do not. So have a little look at the words and then think to yourself, would this be a word that describes an entrepreneur or would this not? And put them into two groups, okay? I'll just read them out. Creative, shy, determined, confident, risk taker, lazy, resilient, dull, hardworking, and unimaginative. Okay, so can you please now just pause the video and organise those into two sections. One, words that would describe an entrepreneur, and one, words that wouldn't. Okay, so I'm going to go through the answers to that. So hopefully you're able to look at those words and organise them into two different parts. So the ones in yellow are the ones which would be used to describe an entrepreneur. So creative, determined, confident, risk taker, resilient, and hardworking. So I want you to kind of make sure that you make a note of all those words, because when you do some reading in a minute, I want you to be looking for those types of characteristics in the story of the entrepreneur that you have picked. Okay, so just to recap again from the last lesson, if someone's entrepreneurial, they're characterised by the taking of risks in the hope of making a profit. So right at the start of the presentation, there was a big pile of gold, and most people select business because they hope to one day maybe run their own business and they want to make a lot of money. Entrepreneurial people are pursuing lots and lots of money, usually through profit, and that's why they are taking those sort of business decisions. Okay, so profit is really all about trying to make some money after all the costs have been taken into account. Okay, here are 5 entrepreneurs from history. Okay, so on the left we have Walt Disney. Okay, so there's just there we have Walt Disney. Here we have Alan Sugar, or Sir Alan Sugar. Here we have Coco Chanel. Here we have Anita Roddick, and here we have Steve Jobs. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly just talk to you about each entrepreneur, just give you a little bit of a background on them, and then what I want you to do is I want you to select one of these people to read about, and the reading is actually attached in Google Classroom. Okay, obviously Walt Disney invented Disney and invented Mickey Mouse and drew Mickey Mouse. Okay, so you might want to pick and read up about him. Okay, Lord Sugar is the main presenter on The Apprentice, which is a British television programme. So he sort of left school when he was very young and started a business selling aerials out the back of a car, and then he went on to running technology companies in the UK. Okay, this is Coco Chanel. She was a fashion designer, and then went on to kind of invent lots and lots of different types of fashions, perfumes, so on and so forth. You might want to read about her. This is Anita Roddick, who launched The Body Shop, which is a retailer in the high street which sells lots and lots of beauty products and health products that are not tested on animals. And this is Steve Jobs, who died a few years ago actually, but he was one of the people that invented Apple, and was largely responsible for the iPad, the iPhone, things like that. So you might want to read up about any one of them. So pause the video, and I want you to pick one of those. You don't have to read about all 5, just pick one and read about them. So just go through it now and spend 10 minutes just reading that. Okay, so you've read about an entrepreneur. I still want you to kind of use that bit of reading, and I want you to highlight any kind of key phrases within there that maybe show whether that entrepreneur has had a setback in their lives. And one thing I know about entrepreneurs is they quite often do things wrong, and they dust themselves off and they pick themselves back up and they don't give up. So I think pretty much every one of those entrepreneurs has had something pretty negative going on in their lives. We can all learn from that, because if things don't always go our way, there's no point in giving up. You need to be resilient and pick yourself up and do it again. Quite often entrepreneurs, certainly entrepreneurs that I know, have been failures, big failures in their lives, but they have picked themselves up and they've gone on and they've pursued something that's a bit more successful later on. Okay, have a little look in that text again and see if they've taken any risks. And then try and link some of those really good words that I gave you at the start. Were they creative? Have they been creative, determined, confident? Have they taken risks? Have they been resilient and hardworking? So have a little look at that. It's a little table. You don't have to do this in detail because I don't want to see it back, or you could just use the words. But who have you picked? Did they have the setbacks? Maybe note them down from reading the text. And in what way did they take any risks? And then have a little look. Are there any phrases in there that you can link towards that? So use the table, or if you aren't able to print that out, then just kind of create and make your own little table, your own little notes around that entrepreneur. Okay? Right, now this is the main task, and this is really what I want you to email either me or Mrs. Webb back, so whoever your teacher is, in the purposes of Google Classroom. So pick a business person. You might find this quite difficult. I'm going to give you a couple of little tips in a second, but you might think, I want to find out about someone who has invented a product or someone who runs a business, for example, and find out about the person that started that business and find out a little bit about their lives. Okay, now if you're struggling for a bit of inspiration, you can maybe pick one of these, but it really would be nice for you to email us back some really different entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur doesn't have to be a multi-billionaire, and some of the examples I'm giving you in a minute, these guys are billionaires, and some of them are just multi-millionaire. I say just a multi-millionaire. A billionaire has 1,000 million. Okay, so you might pick someone that's maybe a member of your family that's entrepreneurial. So it could be a small or a large business. So it's really up to you. But if you can't think of one, here is some. Kanye West, you may have heard of. Obviously, invented Yeezy trainers, and I think it really is the Yeezy trainers that have made him more entrepreneurial. Victoria Beckham, who's married to David Beckham, runs a fashion brand. Jeff Bezos runs Amazon. So Amazon Jeff Bezos is in fact the richest man in the world. James Dyson is a very rich British entrepreneur who invented the Dyson Hoover. I think this is pronounced for Lorenzo Alakia, and that is the wealthiest Nigerian woman. So that's worth having a little look into. Kim Kardashian as well, from Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Now, if you want to pick one of them, great, but ideally it'd be good if you could pick your own entrepreneur, which I want you to research about. Okay, so this is the main task. I want you to research about any one of either those entrepreneurs or one of your choice. Do not cut and paste information from Wikipedia. We're not interested in reading stuff from Wikipedia. We'd much rather you wrote 35 of your own words than gave us back 500 words from Wikipedia. So what we want you to do is we want you to research about that entrepreneur. You can use this table if you think it will help you. So what is their story? Did they have any setbacks in their lives? In what way did they take any risks? What in their life has shown them to have these characteristics of creativity, being determined, confident, taking risks, being resilient, or hardworking. So please email that back to your teacher, either me, Mr. Flynn, or Mrs. Webb, and we'll really look forward to hearing those kind of stories. All right, so be really as decent in your writing as you possibly can to get across the story of that entrepreneur. All right, so thanks very much for listening to this lesson, and I hope that you found it useful. By all means, go through it again if you need to, but just make sure that you email us back those stories of the entrepreneur. Thanks then. Bye.